Oh, you pay me to get an extra degree. Well, I like the front end I like product development, and the front end, which is what does the customer want, and delivering it, marketing, might be a thing that would go good with this because it would help me understand the upfront work and the part that gets delivered to the customer. And similarly so for the Master of Science in Project Management. The company paid for a master's. If I could keep my grade up, then I could keep my job. I'm like, you know what? I think I'll give this a crack, because it doesn't matter how good an engineer you are. It doesn't matter how good the business case is. If you can't deliver it on time and on target, project management skills, it's still gonna be a failure. So all these things, in my view, are connected. And my whole career has been like that. What little thing about product development do I not know that's kind of interesting that maybe somebody should know?
It's being your customer. Hi, and welcome to the Sunday Lunch Project Manager podcast for Sunday, the 5th of May, 2024. This is your host, Nigel Creaser, and today I've got Jon M Quigley making a return, third time, and we're talking about risk. Enjoy. Hi, it's Nigel again. If you are listening to this, that means that you are listening to the old style of the podcast. You may like the old style of having it split into two pieces, but I know some of my listeners didn't. So what I've done, I have created the option for you to be able to listen to everything all in one go. You don't have to wait till next week. You could get it now. At the moment, it's just on Spotify. We'll be coming on Patreon as well. Costs you, was it £3 plus the VAT, I think it is, over a month, and that means you get the whole thing all in one go. So the other advantage, that'll be coming out on a Sunday. This one, you will notice, has just come out on Monday. Wouldn't make a big difference really, but there you go, you've got it. You've got that choice. Helps me invest in better equipment and maybe a few other bonus items going forward. So if you can spare essentially a cup of coffee once a month, and you get the benefit of getting it earlier and getting it all together. So pop along to Spotify, have a look in there where it is, and there'll be a little lock sign against one called number 132/133 John Henney the Voice Coach. That's the combined one, and you should be able to click on there, do what Spotify tells you to do to register and put all your payments in. Yeah, that's it. And the only thing, if you have done that and you do it, I don't know if I get details on it yet. It's very new. So send me ping me a message through whatever medium you can get hold of me, and you'll get a mention on the show. So again, thanks very much, and let you carry on with the show. Cheers now. So I have a number of sponsors, affiliate links in the way that it's set up, that have kindly allowed me to share their services, really. The first one is Mike Clayton, and Mike runs online PM courses, and it is a great resource for getting those fundamentals of project management trained, reasonably priced, and Mike presents it in an accessible and clear manner. You can check out some of his videos on his YouTube channel and kind of give you a view of where they are. But the code for that, if you go to nigelcreaser.com/online PM courses, all one word, lowercase, that'll redirect you to it. There's very different levels that you can buy. You can buy individual courses, you can buy pathways as well, if you like. And I get a kickback off those. Mike kindly shares me that. So if you do jump on and use it, I hope you find it really useful. I think he has money back guarantees and things like that as well. So there's very limited risk on that. So jump on that. And that again, it's nigelcrease.com/online PM courses. And enjoy. Again, Jon is becoming a regular on the show. You see, last year he was here, a couple of years before that as well. Always great to talk to you, Jon. Jon holds the PMP and CTFL certification with experience in a myriad of product development topics, including process quality, cost improvement techniques. He's got 30 years of experience, or probably over 30 years. I don't know, under 30 years. I always miscount these days. Of product development experience ranging from embedded hardware and software through to verification, and with a number of patents outside the US. Jon has a Bachelor of Science degree in Electronic Engineering Technology from UNCC, an MBA in Marketing, and an MSc in Project Management for City University of Seattle. He's a member of SAE, Software Test Professional, AIAG, and PMI, holding the PMP certification. He has also co-authored about project management. Oh, Jon, well, show.
Thank you, Nigel. It's good to be here. It's very good to be here. And that list makes me seem kind of old, maybe.
Yeah, I know the feeling. And it's one of those things, isn't it? It's you sometimes sit back and look at what you've been through, has been, and every so often I catch myself when I look at mine. I'll think, geez, that's a lot of stuff. My current role have been there nearly 20 years now, and then I look at all the things I've done. And I was chatting to someone in the warehousing area for a while when I first joined, and he says, "How long is it since you left data warehouse?" And this person's been there, still there, and I'm like, "Well, about 18 years now." So, wow, seems like yes, but it's yeah. So, do you want to just tell us a little bit more about giving you that your blurb?
Okay, well. I'm a curious kind of person, as in I'm naturally curious, which is, I think, the reason why a lot of that looks like that. I'm also mission centric. When I get the bit between the teeth, I tend to go in that way. My wife tells me I'm either in or out, and that's fairly true. You know, if I'm in, you're getting everything. If I'm out, I don't really care how you want to do it. I'll follow your lead. I won't do anything. It'll be fine, whatever, you know. And so the things that I'm on about, I spend time learning and practicing, trying to understand why, how, what would, and that's what has driven my career a little bit. It's not been by some great. This is not the career I would have planned if I would have sat down and scripted what I want and like. I'm going to do this and then that, and then. In fact, it's about as far from what I would imagine I would like to have had for a career from what I actually have. But I'm content with what I have, but because apparently that must be what I wanted, because it's what is what I landed on. And it has given me the opportunity to do these things, to explore a lot of things. Like I was an embedded engineer. I wrote software, designed the hardware, and did some industrial applications, which was altogether an accident. I played in a band, and the drummer, the drummer's friend, Danny, was just finishing his engineering degree at North Carolina State, and he was telling telling Harold about it, and I was there. And I'm like, well, that sounds kind of cool. I'm probably never going to make it as a heavy metal bass player. I try to emulate Steve Harris, but I'm not going to be that guy, you know? So I thought I could be an engineer and I could design effects pedals. So it was the reason for me being an engineer is totally unscripted. It was an accident. As a kid, I wanted to be everything from a person who designed motors to a marine biologist to a doctor. And I mean, you know, it's whatever takes my interest. Well, the engineering thing kind of took my interest, even without the music involved, right? It turns out I have a little bit of a talent for it, probably because of the mathematics and the mathematics of music to some degree. There's probably some pieces. And so my career is not in a script. It's been, oh yeah, that looks like fun. Let's go explore that. Oh, that might be cool. I think I'll do that. Oh, you pay me to get an extra degree. Well, I like the front end I like product development in the front end, which is what does the customer want, and delivering it, marketing. might be a thing that would go good with this because it would help me understand the upfront work and the part that gets delivered to the customer. And similarly so for the Master of Science in Project Management. You know, the company paid for a master's. If I could keep my grade up, then I could keep my job. I'm like, you know what? I think I'll give this a crack, because it doesn't matter how good an engineer you are. It doesn't matter how good the business case is. If you can't deliver it on time and on target, project management skills, it's still gonna be a failure. So all these things, in my view, are connected. And my whole career has been like that. What little thing about product development do I not know that's kind of interesting that maybe somebody should know?
It's your custom skills, isn't there, that there's that sweet spot of delivering a project and delivering business. Sometimes we'll stay in our lane a little bit too much.
Yeah.
And kind of go, well, I'm doing that, and not step back or step across and get that bit of experience. I think my career has been one that I've quite often I've been quite doing, and one area that I haven't done is gone and done service, and it's one weakness I have in my sort of kit bag, that I haven't been on that side. But I've seen from the outside, and I've been kicked when I broke something, or I've been told to get stuffed when I want to try and put something in live and I'm not ready. But I've not experienced what those guys do on a day-to-day basis, on the way that they're looking different, because it's a slightly different mindset. And it's something that I think all of us would do in the project management community when looking at how you're doing streams that you're delivering for or delivering through, being able to get some experience in some organization to do that. So you don't want to, if you've got somebody who's brilliant in marketing, sticking them into project management for 6 months means you haven't got that brilliant marketeer. But then what you do get is a much more empathetic marketeer when you've got them back into marketing. And same with project managers, same with engineers, etc. It's that it's difficult, but you can see where the benefit is if you've had that little bit of experience somewhere else.
Yeah, it does. And for me, another value is, if you're managing a project and you have had some of these roles, you know some of the questions you should be asking, or you studied these areas, you know some of the questions you should be asking of them. And more importantly, you might have some idea of the metrics to add some, you don't have to be a project manager and burn your hand on I'm 30% complete. And then come the day it's deliverable, you find out that person's only got about 10% of it done. You don't have to do that too many times to realize I really need something more than your gut telling me where we are, and that helps with these experiences, can help you with, okay, how are we gonna ascertain where you not dilute ourselves? I know you wouldn't lie to me, but you might be a little optimistic, and you might have some optimism bias, and there's some self-preservation in all these things. So we probably need to find some objective way to find out where we are, and not just gut feel. Some things matter more than others in this regard, though. And
I think it's good. Actually, this way we're talking now, it kind of leads into the topic we wanted to trying to talk about. Every topic. Those watching it is the one behind.
It must be a UK thing, probably.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, it's funny actually. My daughters have said to me before, "Now I'm so funny, I should be a project manager." So it's been said to me. So risk management, right? Okay, so what I think, and some of the why bother? Why bother? What's the point of? Because actually, you can't get something really. You can't guess all the risks, so you're always going to get caught by something. In my experience, so then you might as well not bother and just accept it. Be agile, because we're meant to be agile now, and take the changes when you need to, and take things and be agile on it, and just get on with it. There's an argumentative start to this.
But you depends. That might be the exact thing you should do. It's going to depend on what it is you're working on. If you want to take, we could take that attitude if we're building an online video game that there's no material cost, there's no login credentials, you're not getting anybody's password, nobody's social security number, nothing from a bank account. You can probably have a little bit of a flippant attitude about how you want to go about the risk, or because the consequences are fairly benign. But if you're building airplanes and self-driving cars and things like that, where the investments are high, the material costs can be high, the tooling can be awful. The consequences of failure in the field are not so simple. People could get injured. Then you probably need to adopt a different approach. And you're right about this. You cannot pick. You're not going to find every possible risk. More importantly, the combination of things that are going to lead to some kind of problem. If you watch aircraft disasters, you'll notice that it's very seldom one thing that causes things to hit the fan, proverbially hit the fan, as we say. It's this plus one or two other things that seem like not much, but stacked up together, it leads to something not great. And some of those you can't predict. I'm sorry.
The perfect storm scenario, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's the law of sod, where you get the thing really hammer you is where you get three of things happening at once, and someone's three
and they interact. Yeah. So I just had a poll on LinkedIn. I put a poll on LinkedIn asking people about the risk register. One of the answers was, yes, we create a risk register. The second was, we create a risk register and we track. And one of the other answers was, we just adapt. And I was curious. I didn't get an answer to this yet. I need to set up a separate poll behind it. I was wondering if the just adapt are only agile practitioners. In regard to the attitude you were talking at the earlier for this, but for me, like you also said earlier, that it's actually, you really need two approaches for the things that you can kind of predict, or that you might have experienced before. Or you might just sit down and run some kind of scenario in your mind with the team, and you come away with, okay, this could happen. In fact, it's maybe probable, and this would be the outcome. And so how would I know it's coming? You could put this in your risk register, but there's going to be some that are going to be emergent, and you're not going to know until you start seeing the symptom, maybe. And you're just going to have a culture, I think, that's going to have people bring this to the fore immediately, rather than, I'm not sure it's a problem just yet. Waiting on a problem to become a problem, that's not a project management thing. That's I don't know what that is, but that's not a success thing either.
Yeah, it's interesting. In the middle of it, I'm busy. It might not. Right, I'll put that to next.
Yeah.
And then next week, it's on fire because of that thing.
Yeah.
It kind of sounds like a little where we have, and the risk, I love risk registers. I think they're risk logs and risk registers are brilliant. I love the way people fill them in and then think they're not in trouble if it goes wrong.
Yeah.
And I find somewhere where people say, and then you have a team chasing people up to say you haven't updated the risk register. And that, for me, it's the wrong question. The question is, what are you doing to mitigate the risk? Even if you haven't written the data to register, because updating the register doesn't mean that you've got a decent plan to mitigate that risk. Manage it, insure it, whatever, whatever method you decide you're going to do to deal with it.
Yeah.
I think the problem with risk registers is people think that's the end of the risk reporting sometimes.
Yeah, it's a book that goes in a desk drawer, and that's probably the end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the thing is people are managing it, and they are managing that risk. And they've on a day-to-day basis, they're dealing again that person to manage the risk. They're just so. In which case, change your tooling to help them manage the risk. Then, by default, gather the data that needed for reporting. So you end up doing and I see this a lot in the project management tooling arena. From my point of view, there's lots of focus on being able to report up. And report how the overall project's doing, how to get your team to report on how they're doing on the code. But it's not a lot of focus on actually making the thing that we are doing easier and gather the data as part of making it easier. I don't know whether AI is going to bring us some into that and start helping with that.
I think
years I've seen it.
I think if your risk register has more than just the name of the thing and the symptom for the thing, but you've also managed to connect some metric associated with it where you could use that as a prediction, but then you have to, that provides a baseline for the person who's going to be monitoring this thing to compare it. Now, the next challenge, of course, is like you say, I need to find a measurement to compare that thing to. But if I specify the measurement, I should have a way of an idea of how to collect that. Where do I need to go to look for this? I'll give you an example. I outsourced some work to a project, to a supplier. Now, you could argue that I have just done something with my risk. I transferred it to the supplier. But the reality is if the supplier fails, my project still fails. So I kind of transferred it to it, but I'm still going to eat it if something goes wrong. So maybe I think lateness is a problem. So I would ask them to, I would want to see a tracking Gantt chart, and I wanted to see their schedule performance index. And I would have an idea of what the variation I can live with is based on my overall project schedule and how much slack and whatever is supposed in there. So I would say, you who's tracking the project schedule, which is probably the supplier interface, which would probably be the project manager, I expect to see from my supplier a schedule performance update once every N amount of time. And as long as it's within the variance, say it's 1.05 to 0.95 or 1.1 to 0.9, as long as I'm operating in that zone, I'm confident that the outcome's going to be okay. Now, it's all predicated on the belief that the supplier has the stuff to support these sorts of things in the background. So you'd have to check that out. But that's just an example of, I transferred it, but I have a metric now, which is the schedule performance, to see if they're actually going to hit my target. And if they're not, I can use those numbers to predict what actually might happen.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. It's again,
yeah.
in a sort of summary, what is a risk?
It's a potentiality, right? It's and they have dimensions to them, and they have dimensions that are based on an organization's or an individual's preference. An individual can be risk tolerant, and they'll go to bet up, put all their money in the stock market, and wipe their hands together and say, "I'm good." And if they lose it, meh. Other people are not going to do that. It's got the dimension of the probability of an event happening. It's got the dimension of what is the consequence of should that come to pass. Am I losing money? Am I outside is my reputation of my company destroyed? You know, those sorts of things. Have I done harm in the real world with my plane that just fell out of the sky, or a door that landed on somebody's head somewhere because the door didn't stay affixed to the plane? Those are sort of the dimensions. We talked a little bit about that earlier. The level of risk tolerance is going to be one of those factors. If I'm building a video game that is asking for nothing personal, and the server doesn't work, okay, well, you're not playing PlanetSide today. Go out there and do something else, you know. But if you're building ABS systems or self-driving vehicle parts, systems, subsystems, that's going to be a different attitude.
There are project risks that are risks that there's a risk that the developer, not necessarily the output that you're producing, but just the time. And it's always, that's a timeline one. But where do you, and I think there's a hard answer for this, but well, that's a problem. That's part of project management scheduling. It's part of sourcing. It's part of something that happens as normal within a project. And you wouldn't log that in that minutiae and lead you down at that risk level. So where do you draw that level on that risk management, kind of where you go from it's day-to-day dealing with stuff, and it's issue management with a little I rather than issue with a big I, which I see as kind of risks that have turned into issues that now you've got to solve. It's kind of these ones that down here, they're just the minutiae, they're doing stuff, they're getting shit done on a project is how I kind of see it.
Yeah.
How do you see that as leveling that in that sort of, and I'm guessing it's a continuum of some sort, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Problem. It's like you said, three things. You could have one problem with a developer being there or an engineer, but actually there's a risk of another one. And if you have 5 of them that are off, that means the whole project's 6 months down because you've got to hit certain dates for facing with something else, and that's that. But where does that aggregation come up? How do you see that?
Yeah, that's part of that whole prioritization thing. But let's talk a little bit about schedule, because in the schedule thing you just outlined there's no risk there. You're going to be late. If you have no slack in your schedule and the developer can't be out for a day or two because he's sick, and you're going to miss your schedule, if you're a project manager, you should just come to grips with the fact that this thing ain't going to, the probability of this hitting a schedule is going to be pretty small. And I would articulate that to everybody above me and that's expecting this thing to come out. And I have in the past, as a testing manager, testing group manager, I had a project manager come to me and say, this is what's going to happen. You're going to get the vehicle and you're going to start your integration test. It's going to come here on whatever day, and you're going to start the integration work on the very next day. But I had been keeping track of when we get a vehicle from this part of the company, you can't just start testing it because let's say it's supposed to be a 2013 model. Well, when we get a vehicle from that part of the company, what you have is the driveline is a 2013. The brakes are from 2007. All the interior parts, all the other components, the instrument cluster might be at who knows what year. So you can't start testing it. So I showed him this little curve. I said, it will either be 2 days or it'll be 16 days, but it's not going to be the next day. I mean, if you wanted to pick 8, showing in the curve, I said, if you pick a week, you have a 50-50 chance of getting that right. The real point is, if you don't have slack, and that's the schedule that I was just talking about, there was no slack. If you don't have slack, you should just plan on being late, and you should tell everybody that's listening, okay, this is what we're trying to do. Know that the probability of making this happen is going to be pretty small. And if that's a problem, then you probably need to start figuring a solution even before you even put the schedule together. As you're putting the schedule together, you need to be thinking alternative plans to try and figure a way to compress it or push it out the other way. But at a large scale, what matters is going to depend on what you're working on and what the priorities are. Which ones of these are the most damning? You just got to kind of work through your team and figure that out. Sometimes historical record helps. You can look at the variation of what's happened in the past. You can look at how you've done things in the past and what you saw as a failure or a success, and maybe model some of those if applicable. You really have to kind of get the diversity of perspectives in looking at these. If it's relegated to the PM alone, it's going to be rough.
Another great sponsor of the show comes in the form of Air Manual. Air Manual is it's a tool for documenting process, which and best practices. It's a company formed by one of my interviewees, Alexis Kingsbury. Essentially, and I kind of summarised why my view of where we see documentation, and my experience has been, people will document something, a process, they'll put it in a Visio diagram that gets loaded onto a SharePoint site or something similar, and then a bunch of that. So then once that diagram's been shared with senior management, they're happy they have a process in the business. But then the detailed procedures underneath it might be in Word documents, in just poorly kept and not linked easily and not updated. And what Air Manual does, it allows you to put in it's a tool for doing this kind of thing. You whack it in, the service in there, get in there, put in your process, your flow, and you build it down to as low a level of detail, even to the point of checklists where people can check off they've done it. So it creates that guided checklists, easy to create, easy to maintain, and all in one place. And no one's kind of rooting around to find the SharePoint, and then when you change to new SharePoint services and all that stuff, it's all there. So if you pop along to nigelcreaser.com/airmanual, There's a bit more detail there and a link there to click on to go and get. I think they offer a trial and things like that. So it's something that I think can easily reduce the amount of errors, rework, etc. within our organisation. So take a look. Well, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Jon. Come back next week and hear the second part. Cheers. Have a great day. Bye. Hope you enjoyed that. But you're thinking, ooh, I wonder what the next bit's going to be. Yeah, it's frustrating, isn't it? You heard at the beginning of the show where I said there's a way around that. So if you're really itching and you want to hear the next bit of this show, jump down to Patreon, have a look, find the one that's got a little lock on it, click on it, and you'll be able to get the second half along with the first half all together. And you won't get this annoying bit or the annoying bit at the beginning that I just done as well. So yeah, give it a go. It's only the price of a coffee. Cheers. My latest, the latest affiliate that I've got on the show now is Riverside. I use Riverside to do my interviews, Riverside FM. It kind of offers you a whole, if you like, micro studio management producer tooling and goes beyond that. Has a really good free layer. And I've been using it for a while now. I find it really good. When I've had issues, even though I'm not on one of the higher paid levels, the support has been quick, responsive and of high quality, and people keen to help me. The organisation seems really good. The product seems really intuitive, and quality is really good as well. And it's a clever way of doing it is when you're recording through your browsers, so you've not got loads of desktop resources being used compared to some other products that I've used. And what they also do is they stream a lower quality version of it up onto as you're doing the interview, so you're not burning bandwidth while you're doing the interview and potentially impacting on the quality of the conversation. And then at the end, it uploads it, the higher quality from your browser. It's just a really good way of doing it. So if you are thinking of doing a podcast and know someone who's doing a podcast, I would recommend using this tool. I found it really good. Best of the tools that I've tried using to date. And you can get that at nigelcreaser.com/riverside, and that will redirect you to my kickback page on their site, and there I will get a little kickback from them. So take a look. Thanks. Well, it's goodbye from me, Nigel Creaser, and it's goodbye from him, the Sunday Lunch PM. Goodbye.